Abel stood like a pillar of salt in complete paralyzation. His mind was overloaded with information. He was getting too excited. His pulse spiked. His breath ceased to exist. His mother called it an information meltdown, and this was neither the time nor the place for it to happen. He tried organizing his thoughts, sorting them, separating the fake from the real. Now locked into the information meltdown. He counted back from 10 to 1. It was hopeless. Abel watched as the darkness protruded into the light, formed of two prodigiously large, shiny black hooks. In an instant, Abel was pulled backward into the black abyss. He tried to scream, but the valves hung in the back of his mouth. He started to cry. What was happening? Who? Why? What? The long, hairy, hooked arms were frantically feeling him. They were sizing him up, clinging to him and tearing at his clothing. He could feel the coarse hair scratching against the sides of his face. Despite his tears, the hideous thing groped at him. Abel kept trying to scream. He could feel his mouth starting to form, his thoughts starting to gather. He prepared to scream louder than he had ever screamed. He would scream so loud that his own eardrums would burst. The earth would shake, and this God-forsaken thing would let him go. Someone would hear him. Someone, for the love of God, please hear me. Abel's vocal cords tensed. His volume arose to a high-intensity shriek. Slam! Abel's head hit the floor. Enameled black hooks had caught his throat, throwing him to the ground, successfully curtailing Abel's self-rescue efforts. Abel kept struggling, flailing his feet and thrashing rapidly in the beams of light, but eventually he discovered all his efforts were for naught. One large, black talon rested on the top of Abel's throat, leaving him gurgling out his one last feeble attempt at a scream. As Abel looked up with blurred vision, he gasped at the sight of his assailant. Through the haze and the dark gloom of the crawl space, he saw the 8 large, black eyes staring down at him, inspecting him, devouring him. The sweet ambiance Abel had swooned over now was replaced with a cold, dead silence that curdled his blood. The thing continued to look him over. It was checking his every specification from head to toe. Abel squirmed and felt the talon choke down on him even tighter. The face blurred from his head trauma, then came closer, and was just a few feet above Abel now. The thing's inspection intensified, and now was coming in for a closer look. Astonished, Abel made out 2 large hairy blobs protruding from the thing as it came near Abel's face. Abel closed his tear-drenched eyes and waited for death. Blackness! Abel thought. He must be in the H word, the word he was told not to use. The H word place Mom speaks of when those pieces of paper come in the mail. A choking sound perforated Abel's afterlife nightmare, to take him to a whole new, deeper, darker one. Reality. The sound came from 6 inches above Abel's face. It wavered and pitched like a wet death rattle. He could imagine the creature above him, attempting to spew forth some awful green vitriol onto Abel's face. As the choking continued, though, Abel noticed it was not a choke at all. The awful thing it was trying to talk. The choke continued, but started to gain control and pace, and then it spoke, or more, it croaked at Abel. Why are you in my edifice? Even as the words were formed, Abel could feel the tiny hairs of unthinkably disgusting appendages slightly brushing against his tightly shut eyes. He clenched them tighter and began to speak. Now Abel was choking on his words. His throat was painfully sore from the talon pressing tightly down on it, and as Abel choked on his first word, the creature loosened its grip a bit to let Abel speak. I came for my ball. Abel felt the creature's hair brush his face as it turned to the ball momentarily, and then Abel could feel the burden of the eyes bore down on him once again. Abel started to whimper. Let me go. Abel could feel the beast's hot breath on his neck now. He flinched when the thing talked once again. A fly sits, a fly writhes beneath me. What should I do to this fly? Do I rip its wings off, plunge my fangs into it, feel its warm lifeblood extricate into me? Do I tear at its skin and devour its succulent meat? The creature squealed in dire delight, and Abel cringed. The thing was speaking right into his ear. Abel could smell the beast's awful breath, feel the tiny coarse hairs against him digging into his earlobes. He was surprised to be able to speak through the thickness of his terror. What do you want? Abel whispered. At first silence ruled between them, and then after a few seconds the thing talked once again, disregarding Abel's interjection. No No, no. How foolish would I be to kill a fly when the fly could kill for me? To kill a fly is eating for a day, but to teach a fly to serve, yes, to serve. I'll make a deal, fly. I'll let you live, but for a price. You must feed me in return. I hear you buzz about upstairs with the bigger flies. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The creature's large mandibles vibrated with a sound that made Abel feel like vomiting. The creature continued, I know you would serve me well. They all have served me well, my flies. So I will let you go, fly, and you will bring me my meat, and I will call on you for it. When I hunger, I will call. The voice echoed in the hollowness of this place. Abel squirmed and was semi-relieved when the creature lifted the long talon. As the sound of scuttling was heard, Abel arose and saw the beast no more. His head was swimming with pain, and he felt the daunting warm trickle of blood on his forehead. He dragged himself towards this light-soaked entrance, and as he exited, the voice spoke dauntingly from the darkness. When I hunger, I will call. Fly, I will call. Abel collapsed on his bed a few moments later with exhaustion. Not as much from the physical exhaustion as from the mental. What had the creature meant? What was the creature? Did he make it up in his mind? A volley of unanswerable, horrifying questions collided in his mind, but the most predominant of all these questions seemed to throb with importance above all the rest. Was he really now cursed to feed this beast? Abel was so deep in thought that he did not even hear his mother enter the house and trudge into his room. Her scream sounded so distant in his dazed and confused state. Sweetie, what happened? She clutched her mouth after eyeing Abel's bloody pillow. I fell down playing, Abel moaned, concealing his mother from the demonic danger that he had encountered. Even his own voice sounded distant now. It mingled with the surrounding dissertation of his mother, now scorning herself for leaving him alone for so long. The next thing Abel felt were bandages being wrapped around his head. The contact almost startled him. He felt the pill slip down his throat as the cool water chased it. For an instant, his mother kissed his forehead, and he had the sublime feeling of relief from her angel kisses. Maybe he had fallen playing. Maybe his imagination was acting up again. Maybe it was all just a horrible self-inflicted nightmare. Abel's lips curled up in a half-smile at the thought, and he slipped off into a heavily medicated sleep, leaving his mother standing over him with a worried look she seemed to always have. He was floating now in utter blackness. He was far from reality now, swirling around in the emptiness. Maybe he would dream about the soap opera, or maybe he would... Thump! He stirred slightly at the sound, not knowing if it was a dream or an ominous call of reality. Thump, thump! The sound pierced more deep in his euphoria, pulling him now. Leave me alone, Abel said from his dream world. Thump, thump, thump! Let me sleep! Abel whined, but it was too late. The sweet dream melted and dripped away to reveal the harsh interior. It was night time now, and reality was calling for him. The beast was calling for him just as it had promised.